Goes to Facebook. I see it. And then we hit go live on Facebook. Cool. And I'm going to pull up some music. You probably won't be able to hear the music. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live in the mix. Coming to you from the Content Hub of Dallas. I've got Pat Imig in the house. Pat Imig, how are you?
Doing wonderful. I flew all the way to Dallas just to be on Facebook Live because I don't know how to do it. It's very complicated.
It is quite complex, and the good thing about that is that we're here for you here at the Content Hub of Dallas. And if you know anything about us here at the Content Hub of Dallas, you know we love to get down. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Pat Imig in the building. He's got some other members of his organization here as well. And we're testing all kinds of podcasting gear. We were doing a 3-person podcast last night. We got everything decked out here, and so that we can stream from me in the booth with multiple guests. So not only can I run his chair, but there's another chair. And so you, my friends in the audience could be a guest on our show at any time, and you would be right here with us at the Content Hub of Dallas. So
that's good living. You can be on the show.
That is good living. Social Authority Show. So why is social media so important? I mean, this is a question that people ask me all the time, and it seems so simple to us. And I think that is one of the tough things about promoting social media is explaining it to people. So when you explain social media to people and how to use it, how do you describe it?
If I was going to whittle it down to one sentence, I would say money follows attention. And the follow-up to that is that attention is the currency for our world today, right? So everybody's got a smartphone. You make a lot of videos about how it's overly simplistic, but it's the truth. It's like if you have a smartphone, you now have unlimited reach if, in fact, you want to utilize your skills and your tools and your platform. So that's what I would say. If you're not leveraging social media as a personal brand, as a local business, as a national brand, as an e-commerce company, whatever you are, then you are behind because your competition is doing it.
Oh, they're most definitely doing it, and they have been doing it, and they will continue to do it. And it's just how people communicate. And back in the day when we were growing up in St. Louis, the only way to really pop off was to like get on the radio or get a record deal. Right. But now Facebook's the record label. Spotify's the record label. I don't need all those big expensive companies taking a piece of my money. So all those artists that were doing $10 million in sales from albums that we found out were broke way later in life because those companies made all the money and they own the catalog.
Makes you glad to not be in that field anymore, doesn't it? A little.
It makes me very happy that I didn't get a push at a young age because number one, I probably wouldn't have made any money, and number two, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. And so,
yeah, I mean, with you, it's always going to be spectacular one way or the other.
Well, right? Yeah, it would have been spectacular death.
Well, I'm not trying to make light of that, but what people ask me, like, because people that know both of us from our growing up together in St. Louis, they would randomly just say, have you talked to Pat Hilton, or are you surprised that he's, and it's like, no, I'm not surprised he's doing what he's doing. I'm not surprised he's successful, because either way, it was always going to be spectacular with you because you're a hard-working animal. Not a lot of people work as hard as you do that I know.
Well, and that was the thing that was always the common thing we had going for us. And even your dad, who sat on essentially the other side of the aisle as an entrepreneur from us. We had no proven numbers. We had no proven metrics. And so we didn't really have anything to show someone like him or even my dad that this was going to work.
And here it is now. It all evolved, right? I mean, again, for you, it was music. For me, it was sports, writing for publications, being on Sports Talk Radio, doing the Barstool Sports thing back when it was a newspaper. And it's like, at some point, you take your lumps and you're moving along, but you realize I can deliver something that satisfies my creative need, right? Creative people need to be creative somehow, some way. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be business smart, which both of us, I think, have gotten better at that over time, particularly in your case you have. But if you're not able to put it all together and be creative as a creative person, you're not going to really feel fulfilled, I don't think, either. And that's kind of where I think both of our paths ended up crossing again, is we're both doing this unplanned. It wasn't like we both tried to do this at the same time.
But I also think it's just an extension of what we were already doing.
Correct.
So back in the day, again, like musicians and entertainers promoted themselves on social media because that's what it was for. But now businesses and personal brands, as that new term has kind of come around from, I believe Gary Vaynerchuk came up with it. But a personal brand is just, Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley were personal brands. Chuck Berry was a personal brand.
Right.
All of those things have existed in the entertainment field forever. Everyone knows who Dolly Parton is. I don't know that I can name a million of her songs, but I know a couple of them, and I know exactly who she is.
Right. And that's actually, I think, something that's forgotten is that those people, like when people today hear personal brand and they're like, they roll their eyes or they're like, well, what does that even really mean? It's like, well, you just said it. It's like in radio, Howard Stern and Rush Limbaugh, two diametrically opposed viewpoints, right? But both in their day, fantastic at what they did. And it wasn't because they had all these other bells and whistles. It was because it was the Howard Stern show, the Rush Limbaugh show. Those were their show was an extension of their personality. So it was their personal brand.
Absolutely.
It's also like from a reputation thing too. It's like if you've always worked hard and always done good for the clients you serve in whatever field you do, you're doing your personal brand whether you know it or not. You just might not be marketing it, right?
Well, right. And I think that these have become sales terms for just being a rock star. That's all it is. Celebrity entrepreneurs are the new rock stars. We were talking about this last night. Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Anytime you mention those two names, people either love them or they hate them. No one is in between. There is no middle anymore. It's gone. They either went with them or they went with them. Or maybe they changed. Maybe they voted for Elon and Donald and now they're seeing what's happening and they don't like it. Which, I mean, that's your problem because now you're stuck with it for 4 years.
Well, if you voted for it, then you knew exactly what you were voting for. You should be happy.
That's my opinion. But
and if you didn't vote for it, you're probably glad you didn't vote for it for that same reason.
And you have a right to express yourself either way. But the point is, when you mention those two names, everybody knows who they are. Jeff Bezos is the Amazon guy. Mark Zuckerberg is the Facebook guy. Celebrity CEOs and entrepreneurs are the modern age rock stars.
Boy, Zuckerberg's done quite a personality change over the last 6 months, hasn't he? He's gone from...
He grew some balls, didn't he?
Yeah. I actually think at that inauguration, there was that, the photo of him kind of staring at another woman, and I think that was planned on his part. I think he wants to show everybody that he's just one of the guys.
Maybe, because, I mean, he was just one of the freaking crybabies there for a while, and it was just really, really annoying.
That is.
And the whole, we're going to let everybody say what they want to say. It's like, well, you should have been doing that the whole time, but here we are. And these tools, like, I use their app. Hey, Chad Maroney said, what's up? Let's go, Chad. Let's go, Chad.
Maroney.
So the cool thing about the Facebook platform, so we use the Facebook streaming platform, I do, because I can tag the person on Facebook, so then all their friends see the live stream. I've always thought Facebook was the most revolutionary social platform, which is why the Social Network movie is named after it.
Also, I agree with you, and I think that when Instagram and TikTok, for a while there from like 2015 through like 2019, Instagram was awesome in my opinion as far as organic. Mm-hmm. You could literally get followers by posting quality content because people and whatever reason they change things. But people during that time and with TikTok's emergence, they kind of have shit on Facebook, and the reality is that Facebook is still driving a lot of stuff. It's still one of the most, outside of YouTube, it's like the most popular social platform in the world. So, and I'm aware fully that Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company. But I agree with you. I think Facebook took for a while there. It was like uncool and unpopular within certain circles, but people ultimately, that's probably coming from younger voices. They don't want to be where their parents are, right? So,
I was about to let you finish, and then I was going to jump in and say it's broke kids, and that's not my client avatar. So they can go hang out on TikTok with all the other broke kids.
You're not working with broke kids?
And I'll work with the people that are actually out here running companies that need a social media machine, which is exactly what we're all trying to build now. And the cool thing about this now is there is no... you don't even have to compete with people. You can just attract the right people by just making content. And so one of the toughest things, Like real estate folks who do a ton of deals, they come home and sometimes they're the one their wall's not painted, but they got 4 different contractor teams. So sometimes when you're a social media producer, like I had to take all those music skills and all that shit that I learned on how to produce stuff and use it to promote people on social media. And that's how I created a monthly recurring revenue model for my company and a monthly success model for the clients so that we both win.
Right.
Because if I can't pay the rent and I can't pay a team, then I can't provide you the badass shit that you need every day on your page. And if you don't have dope stuff on your page, you're just not even competing anymore. Because at the Gary Vee and Grant Cardone level, those guys are putting out 5, 7, 10 pieces of content a day, and they want all the attention. They don't want you to have any of it.
That's right.
They want to take it all. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, who are you competing with? Like Jimmy the Pizza Place? Or are you competing with those guys? And we have to change the way we think, because sometimes we get surrounded by like the local scene, and that can actually be great and it can actually be horrible for you at the same time.
And I also think that when there's blanket and generic statements regarding social media, and you need context. So yeah, if you're trying to be like those names, like you said, you better be posting as much as those guys. However, having worked with hundreds of local businesses in the last 7 years and national brands, if you're a local business, you don't necessarily have to post every day. It depends. You can still reach people every day through strategy and through paid ads or whatever it is. But I think that the notion that it's like a one size fits all, it's like, well, shouldn't we be posting every day? It's like, well, yeah, you should, but what are you going to do about it to make that happen?
And what are you comfortable with as far as output? Because if you burn out after 2 months, then we blew our load. I would rather do 2 videos a week.
Interesting phrase.
It is. Hey, some people, they run out of juice.
Right.
So you have to think about it. How much output can I put out in a week to where I still have something to post tomorrow or a day from now? Because if you just run out and you don't do it anymore, in my opinion, that's just the ultimate lack of accountability and discipline, is when someone's posting for a while and then they stop.
Right.
Because then they either ran out of money or they quit.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to watch. You can always, even if you're not, involved in day-to-day stuff, posting content or whatever, but you're still kind of noticing things, you can pick up on that right away.
Totally, dude. And usually it's a lack of preparation and it's a lack of having a system to follow. And that's why we were already marketing ourselves like this for years and years and years and years and years, telling people to do it. We used to tag like 700 people at Fraley's.
Spamming?
Yeah, like people would walk in the door and I'd be like, oh, there they are, tag. Oh, there they are, tag. Oh, there they are, tag. Until it got up to like 78 people who were at Fraley's. And those people were never there all night. There was an in and out, of course. But no one needs to know that. It looked way bigger than it really was.
Correct.
That's why it worked.
Correct. So now how does that play into today?
Well, today it's almost the same thing. I mean, we're still on the same platform and it's making me way more money than it was back then. So I'm still trying to be out in front of people every single day. But now I want to be out in front of people as a video marketer and as a social media manager and as a speaker and as my own brand. Because if people see me doing it out there on stage with Grant and Gary and X and Y and Z, well, they know that they can trust me because I've actually stood on the field with the best players. That's why when NFL players or NBA players or those people, they get the big broadcasting contracts. You might know more data than them. You probably are more of an encyclopedia when it comes to sports analytics. But like that guy played on the Miami Dolphins, and even if he sucked, he gets the broadcasting deal and we don't.
Tom Brady's making $37.5 million a year with
I
Fox.
thought he was good at the Super Bowl.
He was good. I think he's okay. I mean, he's definitely good and he's very nuts and bolts in X's and O's, which is fine. That's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I will say he's way better at it than Tony Romo, who I think he had a kind of a honeymoon phase when he first became the announcer at CBS. Did a really good job for that first year, but now, he still might provide insights, but it's like someone needs to get in front of these guys and say, like, you don't have to talk in between every single play. You can let the thing breathe. That's one thing that like the greats have always done. John Madden, even he talked a lot, right? But he still would let the play breathe. His partner, Pat Summerall, was always a less is more play-by-play guy.
I remember Pat Summerall.
That's why they were so good, because it wasn't, they never tried to do anything over the top, and it was never this like, I'm being paid to talk, so I'm just going to talk the whole time. That's where guys like Romo drive me nuts. I think Brady's did a pretty good job in that regard.
They've also gotten way better about switching off. And even when we were playing with this, I was like, I guess I could do split screen, and I'll figure out how to do that with this little switcher board thing. But it's almost good that I'm not, because then it forces you to focus on the guest, forces you to focus on your pot, it forces you to pass the ball more. Sometimes when I see people do streams and it's 4 different people, it just turns into chaos. There's no focus. What's the focus point?
Right. It's funny it's funny how you notice things too. The more you're involved with what we do for a living. And I'll be watching, just even like 2 nights ago, there was a college basketball game on. They're interviewing like the star player. It's him, the 2 announcers, and there's 1 camera. And in my head, I'm like, I'm surprised they don't have a second camera just for him, and a third camera just for him going this way. But the reality is that that's a lot of resources, and you're probably gonna also, if you keep it simple like they did, it's probably better off. But that's just kind of where my head goes when I'm watching this stuff.
And now, even if you're doing multi-camera, which we're going to be doing a lot more of, and you saw me struggle with the gear, and it's all set up correctly, and it all works, but it wasn't optimized until we sat 3 people down and ran it until the thing like practically broke. And then we were like, oh, we need this, that, and the other thing. And I had it all. It just wasn't configured correctly. So now I could take this anywhere in the world and do a 3-person broadcast, essentially, as long as I have Starlink. So Elon, bro, come on.
He is now the scorn of a lot of people, that's for sure. The lens of hatred has shifted from the current president that it used to have on him, and now it's all on Elon. So I guess people just need to be angry at somebody.
They have to be, because, and that's something you should think about out there, folks. If you are surrounded by people that are constantly angry about things that they can't even control, you got to be careful with that, because usually the things that I was angry about were things that I was trying to do in my life, and life's hard. But that kind of stuff doesn't move the needle at all for you. So if you're one of these people who's afraid to get on social media, or you don't want to post on social media, or you're afraid to be on camera because people are just jerks on the internet, the only way to fix the jerks on the internet is to be so good that they are irrelevant. And that's what's happened over the last couple of years, is people have started to build their own channels and use their own voice. And I think that's potentially what swayed this entire thing in November.
Yeah, I mean, social media definitely has an impact on that. I would argue there's a lot of folks that, for the ones that don't like Elon Musk, they're not going to like what I'm about to say. But I think his purchase of Twitter and now X is one of the most influential things that's happened in the last 5 years, and maybe for the next 20 years, because it allowed free speech, freedom of thought, and now that's why the reason there was so much pushback is the same. And I don't want to get into politics, but that's the reason there's so much pushback with all the stuff they're uncovering. It's because the little system that all the people had, the establishment, the elites, it's a house of cards, and it's all falling.
Well, and I think that we've known for a long time, especially people in our generation that stuck it out with developing skill sets like we have now. Like most people's broadcasts, let's be honest, and I don't mind saying it, they don't look and sound this clean because it's a bunch of work. You have to actually have experience to pull it off.
Yeah, it's not fun to do the tech stuff.
No, but if people could have seen what I was doing at 9 o'clock in the morning, struggling with the system to get it to work like this, they would have been like, well, no wonder people hire him, because why would you want to learn how to do this?
It's a waste of time.
I'll move that light too, so I can get you on
It's a waste of time for you as a business
owner. Move that light back over here. You just pull the wire around.
Right now?
Here, I'll help him. So give people a rundown. I'll help him real quick. Give people a rundown in 2 minutes on what they can do to optimize their social media pages if they're a restaurant.
So if you're a restaurant, here's what I would recommend you do. We've worked with many. And I would say the first thing you need to do is have video. People absolutely love watching food videos. They love to see how it's not even just about the food. It's actually the story behind the food. Hey, you're getting in the way of the camera there, buddy. Sorry. Talk about a lack of decorum in this space. So I would it starts with video, and that's probably not surprising if anybody actually follows me that's watching this right now. So that's key number one, is videos for your food. And it's not just the food, it's the story behind it, and it's the people that make that food. think the Food Network, I think Guy Fieri was kind of a trailblazer because he made that so mainstream. A lot of people kind of talk shit on him because he's goofy, but that's just him. I think the guy's fantastic, and that was kind of an inspiration for when we started. We were actually, right before COVID, we were getting ready to mass produce our system for restaurants across the country. This wasn't just going to be a St. Louis thing. We were going to be in Chicago. We were going to be all over the Midwest. And this is something, obviously COVID hits, everything shuts down. We had to shift gears, obviously. But the point being, you start with the video, and then, restaurants, even when they're thriving, and even when the economy's great, and even when the price of food is cheap, restaurants are still, scratching and clawing for that profit margin, right? So you have to know how to utilize your resources even more. To steal a phrase from the kitchen, you got to cross-utilize, so repurpose and repackage all the content that you have. So what I would do, if I was a restaurant and I'm watching this, and I'm like, I'm a restaurant owner, I provide great food, it's not just cookie-cutter stuff, we put time and we put effort into it. Here's what I would do. I would hire someone to do videos for you. I would hire a professional photographer for the first shoot, right? So on that day, you're going to actually cook a bunch of your specialty items, and you're going to have to just bite the bullet and put it in your marketing budget, right? And you're going to have a paid professional photographer take great photos. And then what you're going to do from that, you're going to have all these photos for your website, for your menu, on Google. You can put it on Google as well. That's the most important thing. If you're in a new town, what do? You search restaurants near me. You look at the Google reviews, you look at the photos, and then you look for social proof. This is something we talk about in our system too for Imig.ai, which is, no matter the industry, what is social proof? So that means you find out about this place, you just Google searched this restaurant that shows up here in Texas, and then after you see the reviews and you're like, wow, this place sounds pretty good.
Texas.
You go check out their Instagram account. And you're like, yeah, this place looks legit. Let's go. So having the social proof comes from having that quality content that showcases not just your food, but the people behind it. And what that is all summed up as in one word is experience. You want to resell your experience as a restaurant through your social media. And most successful business restaurateurs and hospitality groups, they'll say the same thing. We don't sell food, we sell experiences. So the resale of experience is the key for anybody in hospitality.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's good stuff. And being on the end of the hospitality industry that you're in is the best place to be. And here's why. Because bartenders need business. They need people to serve. Servers need business. They need people to serve food too. And how am I going to attract clientele? Because if I'm working and I'm working my shift and I'm putting in my hours, unless I'm Pat the server or Rebecca the bartender or whoever it is, they're either posting on their social media and bringing them on their own, or the business is bringing people in for them. I think people think clients or customers are just going to come to them, and they don't put themselves in a position to attract them. How can businesses, because you work with different people than I do, I want to turn you into the personal brand guy so that you work with all the restaurants in town.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so how do you help the restaurant owners?
I'm kind of nervous in front of a camera and a microphone. I'm not very comfortable.
How do you help the restaurant owners trickle down the social media to the actual employees and the people that work, so that everyone in the establishment, I guess, because it's not like a culture or an organization, it's a bar or a restaurant. How do you get all those people in sync to be posting and using stories and all this kind of stuff and keeping it updated?
Well, that's so yeah, we have like the DYF method, the done for, or the DFY method, the done for you method, and then we also have the done with you method, right? The done with you method is fantastic because that's where we create a strategy and a system. We're going to provide what we provide, which is the professional videos. We'll run strategic ad campaigns, get new customers, create new customers for you and get them in your door. But then on your end, being that this is a done with you type of arrangement, you're going to have someone be responsible for posting, your daily specials. You don't have to post a daily special every day either. That's a misnomer. I could go on for that. But I mean, I'll go to like an example of one of our clients. Every week they have what they call a slam burger. So it's this outrageous burger. Everything they make is in-house. I'll give them a shout out to Blue Duck in Maplewood, Missouri. You want to go there if you haven't been there before. That's something that you should post every week because it's new and it's fresh. Beyond that, though, it's just a matter of instructing and teaching people. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It just has to be, hey, we've got this folder set up. Here's the access to it. Anytime you guys have stuff that's more evergreen, that's not as timely, you dump it in there. Our team will take it, we'll edit it, we'll get it distributed and posted, and then you can continue about your day and keep on working your job. And that way it saves everybody time and it's convenient. So it's just a matter of communication, not unlike any other industry. If you're like, you were talking today with a couple of your clients, and it's most of your clients are doing the same thing. They're just sending you video when they're not able to come here, and your team's able to put it together. So it's very similar in that regard.
I think that the cool thing about the internet is that you can work with anybody on the planet.
Correct.
Whereas back in the day, what we were trying to do is show up to an establishment, then we had to get on their stage, and we had to sell tickets to their event. And then, so we were always relying on another person to get us paid. But now we can go directly to the person, create a marketing plan, bring them business. And that's why we earn our money, is because they're making money by promoting themselves and creating client acquisition funnels using social media. That's all it is client acquisition. How much does it cost me to acquire a client? Right.
And in the case of a hospitality group in a restaurant, what does it take to create a customer? What does it take for us to acquire a customer? And really, it's a matter of consistency, authenticity, transparency. You check all three of those boxes when you allow a film crew to go into your kitchen, mic up your staff, mic up your chef, mic up the pastry chef. And it's not just the food, it's the story of the food. And this all goes back to the experience. What is the experience at your place? And then you need to resell that experience through social media.
Yeah, dude. I mean, social media is the gateway to the eyeballs that you need in any category. So it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant or if you're a podcaster. We were talking about this last night. You can pull the mic up. You should be ready now, baby. Boom. There's the other one.
Wow. Who let him in?
Who let this guy in here? This looks good. Look at that. So we got Zach in the house too. And I'm going to zoom in there too. But break down a little bit of why it's important to use social media. But we talked about VSLs and funnels and forms. Why is that important too?
Yeah. Well, I don't actually think from a technical and a data standpoint, looking at funnels, systems, cross traffic between platforms, everything goes up when you have video, because video is the most authentic thing you can have. So there's a lot of research and there's a lot of trends you can analyze. But what's coming down the tracks is video is the most trustworthy medium.
Yeah, because you can see it, hear it, feel it. It's all there.
There's data out there. I mean, I think it's kind of common sense once you hear the stat. But 92% of people say that they would rather watch a video than read a blog or learn about a product any other way. And it makes sense because you can accomplish in 30 seconds with a video what it would take you 8 to 10 minutes, reading or writing or whatever it is. So it's not surprising that it's just a matter of if you, as a business, as a brand, whether you're a person or a business, do you buy into that and are you ready to go? Because if you're not, then you're going to fall behind, because back to what we said at the very start, your competition's already doing it.
There's no cutting corners around anymore. I think that with, especially now that the generative AI situation is just so out of hand, there kind of has to be a focal point and an anchor to where, you actually have a genuine face, right? So I could generate countless ads, all sorts of stuff. AI is going to even try to generate people and identities, but people want something they can trust. They want something they can verify. And I think too, it's just the idea of everyone has images and pictures. I don't think it's
And they
really
have access to it, right?
and they're all doing, it's like, how many times have we seen this? The discounted
discount death
picture.
spiral?
Yeah, the discount the death spiral of what happens when they're not satisfied. But I mean, it doesn't take any effort to put an ad on Facebook, pay $20 a day. Right. But doing a video takes quite a bit of coordination. You gotta, and it's hard to be satisfied with video. That's one of my favorite things about it, is that it can always improve and it can always get better, because it's like this living, breathing thing almost. So I think that from a numbers standpoint, I've seen so many systems, and when you add video to the equation, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of ways you can mess up the recipe, but when it's done tastefully and it's done right, and you have real people who are leading the charge, adding video is just going to make everything more believable. I'm not going to say it's going to make everything better, because some people will say it's not better, but it's certainly more authentic. It's certainly more believable to the average person.
It goes back to what you and I were talking about this morning, Pat, of like, it's in the most basic terms, people like people. People like seeing people. So no matter what happens with artificial intelligence, and the bottom line is that people are always going to gravitate more towards messaging and storytelling when there's a person involved, as opposed to just throwing out some type of like a static image and boosting it for $20, like you
Dude,
said.
the static image thing, bro, and I mean, you know more about boosting than I do, Zach, but I mean, you can do it sometimes maybe, but that can't be the most efficient way.
I wouldn't build your foundation around static image ads or PPC ads. I would build your foundation around real top of the funnel awareness. Like, you really have to realize one change that's been pretty obvious to all of us in marketing, but the average person is a little hesitant to really believe this. But YouTube's actually the biggest social media platform.
Oh, yeah. I think that YouTube's definitely the biggest. I think it's tough to crack into as well. That's why it's tough.
It's super hard. And when you look at the amount of companies that are unwilling, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. When you look at the amount of companies that are unwilling to kind of bite the
button.
There should be a mute button, right? Just a mute cough button.
Yeah, right.
You see me just, and you can't. But when you look at the amount of companies that they're only going to do video once you can AI generate the video, and there's just zero culture behind a company that actually, is just continually trying to cut corners, doing just enough to get by. It's one of those things. They do just enough. Most companies that are still trying to find themselves, their only effort is doing just enough to look like a legitimate company. That's it. Just like screw if they're actually a good company. It's just, how do we look like we're a legitimate company? And
which was easy to get away with 10 years ago and 15 years ago.
I think
and
5
20 years, and maybe even 5. I do think that when the world shut down in 2020, I think it definitely sped up a lot of the old school companies and corporations and realizing like, okay, we got to jump on this whole like technology, video, social thing. People started doing Zoom meetings all the time, right? Like for the first time ever. We won't go into the problems that led to with, commercial real estate and office buildings and everything else. But I think that you could actually fake it as a company or as a brand years ago. You can't do that anymore, which is why I love it. And that's why people who are on that side don't like people like you, Pat.
Yeah, because I expose them for being the chumps that they really are. Because there's so many people out there that act like they're so smart. They act like they're so rich, and they act like they're so much bigger than they really are. And that doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't help anybody. And all they're doing is faking anyway.
Right.
So it's like the people that are investing in those people are investing in bad advice because they're pretending anyway.
Do you know that I found this out like 6 months ago, and I'm not much of a researcher on like, emotions or whatever you want to call it, but I saw this thing and it was confirmed. Authenticity is actually the most powerful frequency, and like meaning that like it's more powerful than than love. So like authenticity generates more emotion than love does. So you can Google that if you'd like, or chat GPT it. But the point being is that if you're authentic all the time, that means people are gonna love you or they're gonna hate you for it, but there's not gonna be any false feeling towards you.
Well, and all that does is save you a whole bunch of drama.
Correct.
And even in the sales process, if you try and push people too hard in the sales process, it's not going to work. You're going to attract the wrong clients. You're going to close the wrong people, and you're cause a whole bunch of headaches for yourself and your organization by bringing on the wrong people, by trying too hard to sell. And I think that a lot of the sales processes and the sales teachings out there can be good, but I think a lot of them can be too pushy.
I would
because
agree.
You don't want to work with everyone. You want to work with everyone that's the right fit.
Correct. Very well said. I think I think when you're first starting out, if you're watching this right now and you're trying to you're a younger kid trying to get your social media business or your video business or whatever it is, please don't, if you're a younger kid, please don't be starting a life coaching business because you haven't gone through life yet. Just a heads up. But ultimately, I lost my train of thought because I was trying to talk shit. What was I saying?
You were talking about just
first off, you said don't create a
authenticity.
coaching business, which I think we need to actually
If you're
just
a kid.
stay. Okay.
If you're a
Especially
20-year-old.
so do stuff that you
What
actually
I'm
have
saying-
experience in.
Correct. Don't be the guru that has never run a business and has never actually helped people.
That's
is
all
my
you're
whole
saying, which is common sense. And all the people that were acting like they were successful as a guru weren't anyway.
Right.
That has already been broken down and exposed. But the people that actually ran companies and hired and paid employees are the ones that are teaching business or business acquisitions or real estate acquisitions or cash flow or any of those things that are successful 3 or 4 years later when the pretenders already fell off. Because they were trying too hard to coach and consult instead of running their freaking business.
Right. Well, and also, if you have a track record of success, no matter what industry you're in, you're obviously going to be more credible anyway, and that's somebody that you want to deal with.
Well, and I think it benefited me too that I was just so dumb and drunk and stoned when I met all these millionaires and stuff, because I didn't have any reason to try and be. I knew I wasn't a big deal. So it's like, hey, I've got these great talents that can amplify you. Why don't you let me go up there and do my thing on the break that you're already paying for that nothing's happening? You've got this whole arena. You're spending millions of dollars on this arena, and everyone's going to leave for 20 minutes. What's going to happen on the stage?
Sounds like
Put my dumb ass up there.
it sounds like the intermission at the hockey game where the kids are playing on the ice.
Let me be the kids on the ice, because the video that I ended up getting from the 10X Growth Conference, you go back and you look at that and you're like, whoa. I still look at it, I'm like, dude, that's so cool. Like the way they shot it, and they had the drone shots and this and that and the other thing. It cost me nothing, and it cost him nothing.
Right.
But it ended up changing the entire trajectory of me as like a performer and an entertainer, because now business people could say, oh, wow, he's got a little bit of business acumen.
Yeah. Have you ever discussed your any of your music career online? I haven't, not that I've seen anything. That's
A
why I
little
was
bit,
asking.
but I usually just say, I was out at the bar every night performing, which is essentially just what it was, and it saves me a whole bunch of time.
You did,
You know what I mean?
Although there was that year, and I think it was 2008, where you were out where the group was out in Hollywood at Whiskey A Go Go. Mm-hmm. That was a memorable event.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we got our entire trailer stolen in El Paso like 2 weeks before that event.
I remember.
Yeah,
I
it had all
forgotten
our
about
clothes
that.
in it.
I had forgotten about it until you brought that
These
up.
are literally what is this, like a movie? Like this stuff really happened to you guys?
Dude, yeah. So, dude, check
You got
this
your
story
van
out.
stolen, and then you told me you went and bought all new equipment.
Yeah, that
right?
happened. That happened. So listen,
The show must go on.
So we went to high school at CBC High School, right? So if you're a St. Louis person, you definitely
I'm aware.
know.
I'm aware of that. And
Before
for
it was
every,
in the
on.
old building where they had a handicapped water fountain on the floor.
you guys,
That's right.
So first off, no. Before you get into this, for anyone who may be watching this, who's wondering why you even just brought that up, if you're in St. Louis, it's mandatory. Anytime you talk about yourself being from St. Louis, you have to make sure you name what high school that you went to. And if you don't do that, you're not really from St. Louis.
Pretty much. So we went to CBC High School, the real one, and the one that funded all you kids that get this fancy gaming system. There's no freaking gaming system. We barely had the internet.
Yeah,
So-
that was right towards the advent of the internet.
Yeah, we were the first graduating class of the millennium. 2001 is 1. 0 is the end of the other one. So sorry for you guys. That was a big argument
right?
back then. Yeah. Number 1. 0 is not a number. Doesn't count.
Is this just according to you, or did someone tell you
I think
this?
that's the case. But you guys will have to confirm that. Fact checkers or mathematical experts or whatever will have to turn that. But we were number 1 of the turn of the century at 2001. So anyway, we graduated. I went to school in Arizona for audio production. So that's why I know how to do all this stuff and set all this stuff up. And then worked in Vegas for a short amount of time because the job sucked. Hot as hell in a warehouse building sound systems for like Tom Petty and Madonna and all these big people. And I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to work on these big tours as like the lead engineer or anything unless this old guy dies. So, unfortunately, because it's all union in Las Vegas.
Right.
It's all run by the Las Vegas unions and everything's regulated. It's crazy. It's not what I thought it was.
It's probably good for your overall health that you didn't end up in Vegas long term.
Yeah, and so that was when I moved back home, and then my dad was like, dude, you're not smoking chronic and friggin' hanging out at my house. So I just lived on my friends' floors, and we started a band. So we started a band, we traveled all over the country, and we were getting ready to make our way to California, St. Louis, all the way through Texas, out through Phoenix, New Mexico, and we're getting into the borders of Texas, and we pull up to this shady ass place in El Paso, Texas. And I remember it was called Zeppelin's Underground. We roll up to the place and we walk in, and I just kind of looked around at this place, and it almost felt like a scene from a movie where things freeze.
Like Deliverance?
And then the
tumbleweeds?
restaurant workers like pull out machine guns and like blow you away. And so I'm like, we got to get the fuck out of here. This place is creepy. So we didn't play. We thought something was up. It was weird. And this student council had written an article about our band coming to town too. And so all these like student people were hanging out with us and this and that. No one knew
The price of fame.
anybody at the bar. I think we were set up. So the conspiracy theory side of me thinks they were onto us from coming in and they wanted to steal our gear. Because we woke up the next morning after hanging out with a bunch of these people, not anyone from the bar, and our freaking trailer was stolen off the back of our car. So we still finished the tour. We drove to California, borrowed gear from bands, and then Pat flew out to Hollywood and bought us new shit. We played the rest of the tour and then returned it all. 30-day policy on Guitar Center.
How do you I feel like you're everything that Guitar Center is supposed to hate, but at the same time, this setup is so amazing.
Fuck Guitar Center. I didn't order any of this from them.
Nice. Good. How do you like pick your gear? I'd be really curious about that because I had to.
So if you look like these two microphones, mine and his are the same microphone, but yours is a little different, but it's the same brand.
Right.
So I actually think right now yours is echoing less than ours because it's a dynamic mic, not a condenser.
Okay.
So yours is cranked. Yours is cranked like all the way up, but it sounds nice.
Yeah, I bet.
So I'm always testing different stuff, but I stick to brands that I know are reliable and dependable. I only use Sony cameras because they're great for point and shoot. I'm not a great videographer, but I am if the gear helps me. If the template and the setting is there for me, then I'm a better videographer than if I like try to play with the aperture settings. Like, dude, the aperture needs to work for me. I shouldn't have to play with the aperture.
Yeah, I'll let you handle the aperture.
You have to buy gear that plays to your strengths.
You mean you don't completely adjust your f-stop like every single time you're doing something, or like what are you talking about?
Yeah, like I try to just keep it as automated as possible.
You're not a pro.
Which is good. Photographer. Which is good.
I'm not a professional videographer. I'm a professional storyteller, and that's similar to what you're talking about. It's like,
yeah,
I'm not the guy who's going to pick up a $5,000 Panasonic camera.
Well, and this is what it all comes down to is nowadays people from all different walks of life are forced to promote themselves like entertainers have promoted themselves forever. So my lane, I had to sing songs and do skits and do all this funny stuff for years and years and years. And now that's how everybody gets attention because they realized that's how you get millions of views or sell millions of albums. But we've already known this for 20 years.
Right.
And so we've already been doing it for 20 years. And we've had our devastating losses over those 20 years, mainly because time had not caught up to realizing there was so much value in promoting yourself like this, and it still hasn't caught up to it. There are still business owners and people that I see that are going to watch this.
Not everyone's cut out for this life.
That's what I was
I
about
don't know
to say.
what to tell you. I'm not. You know why they don't do it? Because they can't.
They suck.
They can't
and
do
that's
it.
okay. But they're not willing to suck long enough and get laughed
get
at
better.
long enough to get good enough to make it.
You know how it is. There's always the naysayers. It's super easy, blah, blah, blah. Well, why aren't you doing it? There's always, I mean, life's a debate, but I'm telling you, to wake up, put yourself out here every single day, say, not only am I going to make a video, right, but I'm just going to turn my camera on and I'm going to start connecting with people. That takes it takes guts. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, there's a difference between like knowing how to be on camera and then actually being someone who's like
Relevant on camera.
relevant and like fun to watch. I mean, just someone who like you can aspire to be like. So you're like, okay, well, I'll watch this person because I appreciate what they're doing. It's way different than just oh yeah, I'm going to become a social media person. Like, I mean, it's so hard to be.
If you're trying to be a social media person instead of just trying to be you,
yourself,
then
right.
you're
like
screwed.
skits, like
That's
skits,
right.
right? Like you know, there's a difference between someone who has a live show every week, people tune in, even if it's just a couple hundred people or so every week or so, and then someone who's making a TikTok every day. It's about connecting. You can find 1 million people on TikTok if you post every day for 2 months. Maybe you'll have 1 million people see you on TikTok, right? But if you look at the flip side, how many people do you genuinely connect with? How many relationships do you genuinely create with your content?
And that's where we said Facebook, in my opinion, wins the battle. Even YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook all at the same time right now. So we're live everywhere.
Wow.
But my
You're telling me
core
for the
audience.
first time.
Right. You're
Right.
telling me for the first time.
Wow. You're telling me for the first time.
Wait, we're live right now?
We're
Wait.
live.
We'll do it live.
So the cool thing about it is that I'm able to run this all from the booth, and I could have even another camera right here on this couch. We could have a 3-4 person setup. That's a whole live mastermind.
So I didn't need to fly here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, wait a minute. Hold on.
Well,
No.
I think that
Why
the
did we come here?
conversation is better, and
No, I
obviously it's more high quality.
And
in
it's
person.
also 20 degrees warmer in Dallas right now. So
it's just a better vibe.
Agreed.
In person, and that's why people go on the Howard Stern show or the Foo Fighters show up and play music or whatever, because the vibe of a live studio will always be able to be reviewed forever. The cool thing about what we're doing now is that there's replay value.
right.
And the
then-
easiest way to get content is to just have conversations with people instead of trying to make social media content. Unless you're good, that's very difficult to do.
which is also why
That's the trap that you just brought up. We need to make more social media content. The minute you start hearing that, and they're like, we just need more social content, and you're like, okay,
you need more of you content.
Yeah, why don't you go do something?
Right,
Are you
just
going to go
be
to an
the
event?
content.
Are you going to go to an
Right.
event? Are you going to go do a charity event? Are you going to sponsor another business? Are you doing a partnership? I mean, it's like people want. You know what I tell people too is, you know why Gary Vee can post 4 times a day? Because his life is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually doing stuff. He's not just sitting around in his house thinking, I got to post a video.
Right.
Like, stuff is happening naturally. So that's another thing is, understand the pace of.
Context matters.
Yeah.
Context matters in every case. And like you were saying, Pat, what this is right now, the bells and whistles have changed. It's technology driven, right? It's internet, it's social media. But ultimately, people like us, we've been content creators and producers our entire life.
Yeah, this is the new way that people communicate in the entertainment business industry.
Right.
Business has now taken on the entertainment principles for client acquisition purposes. People in the rock and roll industry or broadcasting or any of those sports broadcasting have been promoting themselves like this forever. Everybody knows who, Chris Berman is, that's a sports broadcaster. All he is an entertainer.
Yeah, and honestly, as much as I used to give him shit You know, back in the day when we used to do our media columns.
You giving a sports person shit?
That's shocking. I know.
That's crazy.
Shocking. I mean, I miss him based on what that network has become, and we don't need to talk about what that network has become because they've just given up on highlights and they've invested fully in personalities, but the personalities are forced and contrived. And that's why Pat McAfee is the best sports radio show host in the world.
He's saving it all
because he is authentic. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way, or some people, but ultimately he's just being himself. That's not him faking it, and that's why his show is successful, is because it's been authentic since day one. It's inherently him, and he's bringing his boys with him, right? Like, it is literally just a group of dudes that like sports, and they do it the way that they do it. It's not this contrived, forced, fake argument stuff, you know, that you see where two guys are in suits with one moderator in the morning. Like, it's just, that stuff is so broken and so old and played out, but they're still doing it, and they're still pouring millions into it. And I don't know if they'll ever learn from it.
But I think that what's happened with the Pat McAfee guy has more of a podcast show
100%.
feel. That's why people like it. It's more relatable.
It's a conversation like we're doing now. So it's like, why is it so hard for the sports media world and sports entertainment world to learn that and realize that he's not the actual he's not the outlier. That's actually how people who love sports communicate all the time. That's why people were going crazy about Canada and USA the other night, because it was like so cool to watch, you know, this exhibition game, and first 3 seconds in, you got Kachuk throwing down because the fans of Canada were booing the national anthem, which to me, that's fine. I think that's part of the fun. It got them revved up, and it's going to be fun to watch that rematch for the title.
It also got them their asses kicked.
It did, but they might be more focused and might take it a little bit more serious for this the final go around.
Yeah, dude, I think that's why I invested everything into this place. I mean, we're all in, because I think for my personality, for my entertainment style, this is the natural progression of what those guys told me to do in 2018. Hey, dude, be an MC and become a video marketer. Don't stop doing music. Don't stop being you. No one's telling you to not do those things, but format it in a way that you're like the video marketing entertainer guy, because your ability to get on stage is going to separate you from every other videographer that stands in the corner of the venue.
And you as a person, you're not replicatable. I don't even know if that's a word, but if anybody was trying to do exactly what you're doing, it's not going to work the same way.
Well, I never really tried to be the star. I've always found ways to work with other talent to put them over, and that's what created the business model. My job is to make Chris Cavallini and his company look good, or Robert Love look good, or Kyle Mallion look good, or this person or that person or the other person. That's why it works. You have to become a wheel in a machine that's already working and make it move faster. Remember when Stone Cold used to talk about like every career? It was kind of sad to watch him say it, because it was like just after he retired, he's like, listen, everybody's a machine. When you're a part of this,
you're a spoke on the wheel.
Yeah, when you're a part of this big of a machine, I mean, your gears, they start to wear out, and you have to be replaced.
How did we only get 5 years of prime Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Because Owen Hart dumped him on his neck.
That's right.
Just saying the quiet part out loud.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, and he also had some knee problems and leg problems too. But
he drank a lot of beer as well.
And he drank a lot of beer. He was in a bad spot too when he left. So,
but good. I think that for us, we figured out how to use this talent and create a wheel that moves faster in some of these business machines. And a lot of it for me has been personal brands, because my friends or the people that I work with or clients or whatever, I've noticed that it's not anyone that I knew. It's people that I met. But your clients, your best clients become your best friends.
That's very true.
That's true.
I would say that like most of my friends at this point are people I work with.
Right.
Because I don't have the connections with, and I'm not playing the violin.
Did you work with my mom?
I'm not upset about it, but she volunteered at the Best Buddies charity.
Hey, there you go.
But
shout out mom, mom, Chisa.
Are you going to bring up grandma too? You want to do that while we're
let's do it.
I probably will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I forget where I was going with that, but What was I saying?
Well, dude, it was just all about how you have to be putting it. We've been doing this shit for 25 years. We could go here for like 8 hours and it would be entertaining. And we'd miss cues and we'd play wrong. Like remember when Brad G and I used to say, if you ain't playing wrong notes, you ain't playing hard enough.
There's
still
truth in
believe that.
I think on a social media perspective, Gary Vaynerchuk's done a very good job of explaining that same thing for social media. Meaning like if you're a young kid out there and you're like stop worrying about how pretty your Instagram profile grid looks.
Doesn't matter.
Perfection is, people get annoyed by perfection and it doesn't really exist anyway. So it's the people that are gritty that just keep going. I mean, today's is a perfect example. The first couple hours weren't exactly the most beneficial time spent because of all the equipment stuff, right? But now
we got the multi-camera stream. So like this day, I was going to get that set up anyway. So when you were like, hey, I think we're going to pop in on these dates, I'm like, that's perfect. We'll have multiple chairs filled with people that can bring value, and we'll figure out how to make sure that this system works the correct way. Because again, when you're at the personal branding level or big CEO, or you own multiple organizations, you have multiple marketing teams, multiple media teams. We're like one media team for some of these people.
Right.
Like my buddy Kyle Mallion hires like 3 or 4 different media teams. We all do different things, but like there's like the live event team. We take that footage, we chop it up, we post it. So I'm always tagging like Rob Springer because he gives me dope shit, saves me a ton of time. But like all of these things work together. I'm not in competition with Rob at all.
Right. Which is actually, that's like one of the things, I think it was like 2017 or 18 for me, where we started promoting that aspect of you're just speaking to a business and a brand. It's like your company is now a media company, whether you accept it or not. It's like you can accept it or you can deny it, but eventually your competition's going to accept it way before you and get way further, and that's not going away.
No, it's not. And again, I think Brian Armstrong and French Quarter are a great example because he already has proven himself as like a staple in that area.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to continue.
I've never been there.
He's going to continue to attract.
It's a fun little spot right off of Manchester Road, the most fun road in St. Louis to drive on in the world.
He is going to continue to attract people in that area forever because they become a staple in that area. But not everybody who's new has that reputation. So they're going to have to work harder and harder and harder and harder to get people to stop in and to get them to stop in again and again and again.
Trust me. If you open a bar on Manchester Road and you get out of work and you're near there, you're going to a bar. You're not driving all the way down to. It's the worst road to drive ever.
It's great for stopping at a bar.
Love that bar. You know what? Justin's actually working there right now.
That's wonderful.
Is that incredible or what? Our buddy Justin Gregg.
He makes drinks at old French Quarter.
Yeah,
that's great.
He's
It
national cheerleading champion.
It is happy hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is definitely happy hour.
Now.
It's 4:00 Central Time.
Yeah.
Central Texas Standard Time.
Wow.
I do like it down here.
Oh, dude, it's great.
This area reminds me a little bit of like Branson West, where Table Rock Lake is.
I said that earlier. Texas almost feels like Missouri's big cousin.
Yeah, the nice part of like southern Missouri.
It's great.
I think people outside of Missouri, they assume that like the Ozarks is just what that TV show was, and it's like that's not really the case. It's a beautiful area. There's actually a lot of great like breweries and manufacturers out there too of cannabis and whatnot. So
well, dude, I think that Missouri's business innovation is actually underrated. I mean, you got the Bass Pro Shop guy. He's a super successful CEO. He's just not really super published about it, but anybody who's from our area knows there's a lot of really successful, wealthy people.
Yeah, Johnny Morris
from Missouri.
I think Johnny Morris of Bass Pro Shops has done more for tourism in Missouri than anyone knows.
Just saying,
not just because of Bass Pro Shops. That was the catalyst that allowed him to do the other projects, right? So if you go down to any of those, like the Big Cedar Lodge, any of those golf courses, even if you don't play golf, just seeing it, it's actually worth going just to like walk it. If they're going to let you walk it, you should. But he's done more for tourism for the state of Missouri than anybody. And really, he should get like a Presidential Medal of Honor at some point, or Presidential Medal of Freedom. I forget which one.
For tourism?
But just for what he's done for tourism and just for conservation in general.
Well, the word is development.
He's the Walt Disney of conservation.
Well, and especially in that area, development-wise, there wasn't anything really that attractive to people outside of Missouri about Missouri,
right,
until those areas started to pop off.
That is a crazy analogy, the Walt Disney, because every conservation, it's weird because most conservation, or historically people who are who were into that kind of thing, like especially national parks and whatnot, they were not business people.
Right.
They were like explorers, or they found stuff. That's such an interesting Johnny Morris, just shout out to him.
He wow. I mean, he
He
started by selling liquor selling lures and fishing rods and fishing tackle out of his dad's liquor store. And people were like, what? And that was like in the early 70s, and by the mid 70s, late 70s, he had his first store, and they did a grand opening with like some of the most famous fishermen in the world, like Bill Dance, who's still with us. He's used to be on ESPN back when they played sports on Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings. And since then, I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah, I think that, again, we were talking last night when the gear was glitching because we were shredding so hard. But
that's right.
How do I get on the list? And again, you don't have to be number one at everything. In fact, more likely than not, you're not going to be number one at everything. So when you try to be number one at what you're great at, if you can get on a list of people that are the highest, most recommended people in a certain category, you're going to be extremely successful. The number one person usually changes. So if you look at any of those graphs that say what was the most revenue generating company starting from 1950, if you ever watch those things and it like goes across the screen and it's like Microsoft, and then it like kind of comes back and then it's like Apple takes over and then it's like Amazon comes out. It wasn't even around and it's blowing everybody out of the water. And
he got laughed at.
Speaking
too.
of Disney's on the list every single time. Coca-Cola. How do you get on the list? But then the other thing is, it's like, how do I stay there? One of the hardest things about success is sustainability. How do I create something that's sustainable? And that's why the Jeff Bezos, the Mark Zuckerberg, the Elon Musk, the Donald Trump, the whatever, on whatever side or whatever you look at and you like, there's somebody that comes to your brain, whether it's rappers or fitness athletes or swimmers or foodies or whatever you're into, gamers, streamers, podcasters. I think you can create a career out of anything now.
Yes, I agree.
Whereas 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't. It's all because of social media.
Yeah, the idea of playing video games for a living.
And getting paid?
30 years ago?
No way.
Like, let's see, 30 years ago, that would have been what? 1995? So I'm playing Super Nintendo and I'm playing NHLPA.
You'd have to work for Nintendo.
NHLPA 94.
You would have literally had to work for Nintendo.
You would have had to work for Nintendo and like take the calls and help people on tours and guides and shit.
Which you could do if you knew how to do. You would be amazing.
Can we talk about how great the one-timer was in NHL 94, by the way? That's still one of the greatest games of all time.
Great game. Great game.
Zelda's Ocarina of Time on N64 was a fantastic game.
You go the original Zelda. We were talking to a couple people, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I love Zelda." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I really love the new Zeldas." And he's like, "Oh, I was talking like
you got to get that. You got to pull that gold cartridge out and throw it in the NES.
You got to get that 8-bit.
You do. You got to go get that. You got to go get that magic sword and then go save Zelda from Ganon. That big fucking evil son of a bitch.
Yeah, he really was something, wasn't he?
I'll tell you.
But again, it's like that game's legendary. People know that character. They still sell Zelda t-shirts at Target.
Yeah.
Which I think is just crazy how those characters...
That was 1986 or 7 that came out?
They're still relevant.
Right. That's the list. There's a video game on the list for you.
Well, it's just with anything.
Same
in
thing
pop
with Mario
culture,
Brothers. They just came out with a movie, right?
Certain things... products, services, people, music, companies reach a certain level of success where there's a notoriety factor.
Brands.
Right, brands. There's a buzz. Like today, you told me yesterday, the show's social authority. Your site needs to be social authority. It's fine that the collective, the social authority collective is the group or the service or whatever, or the social authority package.
Right.
But I bought socialauthority.ai today for sure.
Well, you are actually... You can do that because you use AI too.
I do use AI. Of course we do.
So it's like
we'd
you
be
can develop,
idiots not to.
No, I think we talk about this a lot because I work with a lot of AI companies and stuff. But I truly never leave the area of like credibility and verification. Like, yeah, I want to be able to type in social authority and see your website pop up, and know that it's you. So I'm glad you did that. Do you have an email yet? You can open your email so I can have it like Pat at socialauthority.ai.
No, but we can build that after the stream.
Okay.
I'm
so excited
on calls
that you
earlier,
did
so
that.
I wasn't trying
I'm
to.
so excited that you did that.
I did
too.
it. $159 for 2 years.
Awesome.
Prepaid.
.AIs are
That's money well
great.
spent.
Yeah, they're
Prepaid.
great.
That's nothing.
Especially if you know that your company is kind of all in on AI. You should definitely go buy a .ai domain.
Well, especially
top level.
Especially considering that we want to help people automate their social media page.
What you just said is the key. I think when people who are outside of this industry, and I'm not trying to act like it's this cool thing or whatever, but they hear AI and they're like, oh, so you guys are like just using like robots to do everything. It's like, no, you're using artificial intelligence to automate, to make things smoother, to make everything quicker, to do menial tasks that you would have taken you 30 minutes to write. You can then use that, get something in 10 seconds, but you still got to put your touch on it. You can't just you can't be the guy that's like just copying and pasting shit straight out of a machine.
Everyone wants to sell their company as a data-driven, data-focused company, and then they ask those types of questions.
Right.
It's just the absolute. It's almost like you just want to tell on yourself, But everyone should really understand that, exactly as you said. If a company is able to be a legitimate business, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of illegitimacy in marketing and whatnot. Social engineering is really bad. It's a bad thing, in my opinion. But if you look at the big picture, why would you be skeptical if it's working for someone?
Well, that's the thing.
Why would immediately your concern be, and that's the problem, is the concern is, oh, well, this is just working because you're saying it's working. Like, so many companies are data, they say, oh, we just talk about data and we talk about numbers all the time. And then when the numbers don't amount to what they want to hear, it's the end of the world.
I think that's we were talking about this earlier. That's the difference between someone who is invested in building a group of individuals or a group of teams that work and integrate together, and they run a business that's revolving around a real culture and long-term relationships and this and that. They're willing to invest more to have great people that are going to stick, that are going to stay, that are going to help them build their brands and their companies than these people that they're just constantly looking for a way out of paying the bill.
Right.
Because they don't value your expertise. All you're telling me is that you don't value. We don't work with people like that.
Well, and what they're doing,
we don't have time for it because the people that require our time value our expertise enough that they've got so much direction and they've got so much guidance for us to be successful and how they want the content to be. And I would really like the captions to be this way. I liked this edit, but I thought the first 5 seconds could have been better. That's way more productive.
If it's constructive.
Yeah, that's way more productive.
If they just don't like it, but then they don't actually know what they want to see instead.
Like
that drives me crazy. When people complain and I go, what's better though? Like, and you got to be like respectful in some ways, but it's like, guys, everything can be better. Like anything can be better. I could decide, hey, your studio's pretty cool, but guess what? I like the color red instead of the color. Right. But it's like, okay, well, guess what? That's kind of just your opinion after a while. And it's so hard because you do have to treat marketing and you do have to treat those teams as, okay, we're all building a relationship here. We're all building consensus and trying to actually navigate the future. And then you have people who just aren't doing their homework, right? They're not actually, they're holding up progress because they're making it all about the questions that they want to ask. Well,
that's what I mean.
And
also, it's like you have to let the person do what they do. People, like I was just mentioning, they love to let us go out and be creative and have fun and be funny. And like we posted that funny Mike Tyson meme and this and that. Oh, that was great, dude. Good stuff. But so you get the compliments and then you get the critiques. But there's a difference between a critique and here's how you can do it better, and then you do it better, and they're like, "Oh, dude, that was so cool," rather than they just want to criticize stuff. There's a difference between just being a critic and critiquing something to make it better.
I think you got to remember.
right.
I think you got to remember too, though, is that a lot of people want results fast, and then what happens is they don't realize. Like, there's this book I read. I think it was Steve Covey, The Speed of Trust, and it's like, people want results. People want things to go. People want things to be, valued or data driven. But they don't realize that, like, when the numbers are adding up and you don't understand the numbers, that's really what it comes down to is, do I trust the person who I'm talking to or not? Mm-hmm. Because, you can go and verify and audit. Trust me, that's my background is auditing, essentially. And I used to do that. I used to audit for days. I used to find every single thing wrong and look at every single thing that could be improved and every single thing that could be optimized. And it doesn't matter. Everything's terrible. Everything is subpar compared to another thing. And also too, the people who are really, really good or they're innovators, like you said, they're on the list. They didn't get there by comparing themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're unique.
Coke did it.
Their name represents something unique.
Exactly.
It's not like everyone else.
Exactly. It's more than just a logo that you can recognize, right? It's an actual identity that's different from other people. It's so much different when you get to that type of playing
people
field.
I know that use Android phones take a lot of pride in dissing iPhone. And people that use iPhone take a lot of pride in shitting on green text messages.
Yeah,
I mean, that's never going to go away.
I don't shit on iPhones, but I'm still an Android guy, and I ruin the group text, so I do apologize.
It just depends on the person, but people are going to take their stance one way or another on certain things, and there's nothing certain companies or people or organizations are going to do to change those people's minds.
We did buy an iPhone Pro Max, though, just for...
You've bought a couple.
Yeah, so...
He
I'm not
says,
anti-iPhone, I just use... for
his personal use is Android. Right. I know a lot of people like that.
We did a lot of comparisons, and we did a lot of research on, like, is there really a difference? Because I thought there was a difference, and
it just depends on the background,
that's
the
right.
situation,
that's
the
right.
environment.
And
the Samsung S23 can look amazing, and the iPhone next to it in the exact same setting might look terrible, and then you might be in a different environment 1 hour later somewhere else, and that iPhone's going to look amazing, and that Samsung's going to look like crap. It's interesting.
Yeah, and also the weird thing about it was we actually came to a conclusion that that iPhones were really great because they did a lot of the work for you, but in the hands of like someone who's like a real expert, the Androids actually could produce better images, and that's where it got weird.
Well, I think images and video have always gone to like a Samsung. The specifications.
That's what some people say, yeah.
I think that the specs would support that argument, but I also think we're at a point where visually, the specifications don't match up with what you can actually visually even comprehend. So we're at a point where resolution's gotten so high,
right,
that something like this that looks and sounds clean like this, if you compare it to just someone on their laptop streaming their podcast, it's going to make a huge difference. But if you compared us to like Ed Milet or Cardone or any of the big podcasters, Lewis Howes, it's competitive. Theirs might be a little cleaner than mine.
No,
but we're definitely competitive.
There's
a difference in high production quality and shit production quality.
It's like the show don't tell aspect. Because obviously to set something up like this and make it work and make it entertaining, regardless if I've heard of someone or not, if I go and I find a marketing podcast and it looks like this and it's not, because you know what I usually see with marketing podcasts? People recording Zoom calls. And then you're like, did you just tell me you have a podcast and you sent me a recording of you and 3 people on a Zoom call? Okay.
Yeah, that should be like a free community training or something.
It's wild that you actually find people that are like, hey, do you they use that as like a sales tactic. It's like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And then it's like a sales meeting.
Well, yeah, I think that for me, I do want to do stuff like that, but I want it to be educational and free and just a stream. I would rather just stream it because then I can pull you up on the screen and it looks pretty good. So when you guys are doing virtual, because I think we should keep doing these. I think these are fun.
Oh, they're fun. They're great.
And the more I can do these with people, the more content.
We're not going to specify because I think that there's a lot in the works. But ever since we upgraded our systems and we decided, him and I, to take a step back, and keep in mind we have separate companies, right? But we work really closely together. We have seen such a difference in just overall life satisfaction. Like when we actually stepped back and we decided, and I think this was something we decided to do back in July of last year. I remember I went to Pat and I said, we have to just find some way to outsource some stuff. We don't need to outsource everything, of course, because that's what the thing is everyone always takes everything to an extreme. You know what I'm saying? They take the simplest idea and they take it to an extreme and rev it up as high as they can. And it is, that's obviously a part of the game, is trying to corral people and trying to, help people understand that their first instinct is not always, completely accurate. But man, you go to people, I go to freelancers all the time and I say that to them. I go, why are you doing this? I mean, how long have you been doing this process? Like, let's say you go to a specialist. I have a process and I build a funnel. It's like, okay, well, how come your funnel isn't like, how come you don't have it dialed in if you've been doing it for so long? And and that's okay if you take special time, or you take kind of like you have an approach where you really get granular with things with your clients. But the level of people don't understand that it's all an organization thing. That you have to be organized, and you have to be able to predict with some degree of certainty. And that's the thing, is that when people predict stuff and then it's not exactly the way they went, they throw everything out like it wasn't worth it to even plan anything.
Right. Well, I think that, and we talked about this last night, and we're going to probably end up doing like 2 or 3 parts. Well, we're already in part 2 to this podcast. But, dude,
my podcast.
I thought like this.
Welcome to my podcast.
It's
Have
like,
you done your content? Have you done your content today?
I think it's very, very difficult for people to think about marketing or client acquisition or what is it going to take for me to make more money when they don't have any money.
I'm gonna put this out here. Love this topic. Don't know if we want to cover it, but people think of marketing as doing the legwork for sales all the time. When if they just had a sales process that they could explain. And that's such a big difference between, like, I mean, that's kind of a thing that I qualify a company with too. I'm like, what's a qualified lead? Like, what is someone who's ready to jump on a sales call? And it's like, there's such a difference between somebody who's like, well, they probably live in this area, make this much money, and they have this problem. 2 or 3 questions are these.
Right.
They have this as well. And then somebody who's like, well, we can service everyone. We do everything. Like, it's just. And
for all of your marketing needs.
That's something that,
and I'm a full service agency, but I'm really not.
Right.
I'm really not. I specialize in honestly technical side of marketing, which, don't get me wrong, I mean, that's a very wide net, but usually you can find you can pinpoint like 3 or 4 things every quarter with a company. You're like, okay, well, technology wise, this could be upgraded, or you guys are really relying on this tool to do this type of part of your marketing, and it's not really working out the way you think it is. Like, auditing is so huge with everything that we've been talking about with like automation and AI. But, that's the thing, is it's very hard to actually stay relatable with people while getting into the specifics of what you do, unless you're not like completely clear on what the outcome and the objective is.
If you confuse, you lose.
Well, and you go like I said, like, hey, and that's the thing too, is everyone says they're data backed. Every single person wants to say that they're following the numbers, but realistically, it's like you gotta have a boundaries on the playing field, right? And so that's where the numbers start to make sense, really. And so I think that if you're someone who thinks of marketing and you're like, well, we really just want to get leads. We want to boost sales, which is fine. It's like, okay, let's make sure our campaigns are ROI driven or whatever it is. That's fine, but you have to have some clear understanding of like, when is it not the marketing team's fault anymore? Like, when does that handoff take place? And like, how do you tell that everyone on the back end has really done their job? Because as a marketer, this is where it really gets frustrating for me. Let's say I get a company, 90 leads in a quarter, and it's all from targeted keywords. Okay, well, maybe you didn't close every single one of those leads, but you sure could have gotten a referral from half of those leads. So then it's not just that the leads I got you were this much, but if you talk lifetime value and then you talk, hey, for every one of those leads, you could probably go get another 2 or 3 leads from them. And I want to see reviews. I want to see 5-star reviews on these different platforms. Once you do that, it becomes a lot more valuable than just, well, what's our bottom line? How's it raise the bottom line? It's like, those are clients that your competitors were going to get. Well,
like,
and that's give that up.
Listen, the bottom line is important. I'm trying to think of what my buddy Tim says about this. There was something about like, if sometimes you have to spend money to create marketplace value for your company so that people trust you and you can advance the business. And if you're not willing to invest that, usually it starts off as time and energy because you don't have any money. But you got plenty of time and energy when you're young to do whatever you need to do. But once you start making money, you want to protect your time and your energy. So you spend the money to get back your time and to preserve your energy so that you can use your time and energy on things that are going to continue to advance. And so it's very difficult in the phase when you don't have any cash to think about, how am I going to do this? And I think a lot of business
at that point,
owners,
you use that to your advantage, though, right? It's like, I'm backed against the wall, so that's when you go desperate, full animal mode.
and you would think that people who are business owners in 2025 would say, well, the easiest way for me to get a bunch of eyeballs is social media. So if I'm going to do anything, it's going to be social media.
It's all skepticism.
And sometimes
It's crazy.
they just don't think about that because it's also going to require them to take accountability, be confident, go out there and promote themselves. And dude, that's why Rothman Furniture was successful when we were kids, because they made great commercials.
You talking about like Becky, Queen of Carpets?
Like all of those people.
Yeah. The Slyman brothers, they were on top of the arch.
Because you like nice things.
Ted Drews.
That's right. It really
Ted
is good,
Drews,
guys.
that guy, Ted is...
He passed away recently.
No, I know, but Ted was like, when you saw, like, I remember I would hear people say, it's that good, guys and gals. They'd say, like, people would repeat that nonsense all the time. It's so funny.
That's not nonsense, my friend.
That's what I'm saying. Those phrases, like, as trivial as they may, or like as annoying in the moment as you might say, it'll be like, wow, well, that guy must really believe in his ice cream a lot to go and make a fool of himself.
Also,
but it's like, it's so memorable.
Also, while that's not a jingle, that was like in an era where jingles were a very popular thing. I would argue jingles still have room. There's still room for jingles, and they'll probably be making a comeback. Everything's cyclical. Look for jingles to come back.
I think that jingles have always been in, and I think that they're easy to digest, and that's why people like them.
Right.
It's easy to digest.
It's memorability. It
memorable. Was the original like short form video for songwriting. And I realized songwriting and musical production is so expensive. I had no money for it. So I had to become like a short form songwriter, and that's jingle writing. And it ended up benefiting me immensely because it was free to make it, and it was free advertising for anybody I made it for. And so I think that business owners out there, you got to think about, how can I, number one, collaborate with people? If you're not collaborating with people and creating conversations, you don't have a business. You don't have a pipeline. You don't have a conversation. No one knows who you are. How are you getting out there and creating opportunities for yourself?
It's true. Very true.
It's like, dude, these platforms are free. So if you don't want to hire any of us, it doesn't matter. But don't complain about social media is not working for you. You have to work for the platform to work for you.
And it's just because something's free doesn't mean it doesn't require a lot of effort, time, and skill as well. And humility to look in the mirror and be like, okay, well, this sucks, but I'm going to make it better, which is where a lot of people they dip their toe in the water and then
They don't commit.
They
don't
decide
commit.
that they don't want to actually swim in the pool anymore.
Well, and it's because it takes work, and so you got to ask yourself if you're out there. What time? It's 4:30 here on a Tuesday, so. I have an event.
Did somebody ask what time it was?
No, but I have an event.
Yeah, he did. He asked
I
himself.
got to drive. I'll be driving to Austin, Texas in 2 days.
Gotcha.
What am I going to do in between that time to make sure that everything I'm doing content-wise is optimized for the week? And one of those things was this. And so anybody can come in here now and I can stream it all over the internet and have multiple people in multiple chairs anytime I want. And it saves the files and it streams it online as a live show. So I don't need NBC or CNN or MSNBC or Howard Stern or anybody. I have my own show, my own booth, my own broadcasting system. Then it's how do I get people in these chairs that I can help get clips that make them money? Because if the clips that you get from Pat Hilton's show are helping you make money, you're probably going to hire Pat Hilton or someone similar. And the more people that are hiring social media managers and people to run their companies or agencies or ad people or websites, like that was a great piece of advice. You just change that Social Authority AI. Really easy. It's like $150. But the difference between me and everybody else is I already bought that shit and I already have the
100%,
ClickFunnels built.
100%.
I have the ClickFunnels built. So all I have to do now is change the website.
Easy.
And tomorrow I'll be socialauthority.ai.
You didn't bring in think tanks from around the world to contemplate this decision?
I already did it.
You need a blog.
And so we'll add it. We'll add it to the site.
You got to. You got to have a blog.
So
Dude.
I think it's.
I don't know if you write, but if you do videos and then pair with
I'm a good
blogs-
writer. I'm #1 bestseller
Yeah.
on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a little help from some ghostwriters, but it's still
That's okay.
#1's #1.
Yeah. No, you put it out there, and you probably. If I ask you questions about your own book, you probably would know what your own book is about.
Yes, I do.
Right? So
I did write
You're
the
not a
book.
complete hack.
I wrote the book. She had to make it sound like something that
Right.
you could actually read.
Hey, what's in the fridge?
In this fridge?
Yes.
So you got yourself. You got some Natty Lights. Megan's got some High Noons, and I got some Rise Energies.
Wow.
All right. Well, Dave Portnoy's not here, so let's not have a high noon. How about you throw Stone Cold and old Natty Light there, son?
Unbelievable.
Oh, what a
Here we
day
go.
it's
Here we go.
been.
Ready?
Question is, can he toss it?
There it
That's
is.
a great throw.
It's a good catch too.
That
was
was
a great
nicely
throw.
done. That was
Natural
nicely
light.
done.
Wow.
Here we go.
You're telling me again. Well, boys, I've had fun. Are we still going?
Yeah, we're still going.
Are
but
we gonna
I
do
mean,
a part 3?
Yeah, we should totally do a part 3.
Hey, did you watch the VSLs?
No, why don't I watch the VSLs, get Social Authority AI set up real quick, and then we'll go back on and we'll promote it all.
Do it. I love it.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Social Authority show live from Dallas, Texas. It doesn't get any bigger. It doesn't get any better. And it sure as hell doesn't get any more awesome than what you have witnessed here today. I'm going to turn on some music to take us out. They're going to take us out.
What are you
I'll
playing?
play it, and we'll take it out. It's just a little beat that plays. So the interesting thing about this is you have to like stop it. You have to wait for Facebook to talk. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe because the Facebook, there's a lag on the Facebook compared to my software. So X, LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else that I broadcast comes straight off the software third party. But Facebook doesn't allow you to directly tag people if you're using third-party software. So I have to go into the Facebook Live dashboard, creator dashboard, so that I can tag people. And I think it's worth it because look at all the cross-traffic we got from like Kano and like...
Chad Maroney just had.
and
I think,
Chad
I think
Maroney.
we just made Chad Maroney's day today.
Good. That's the cool thing, in my opinion, about Facebook compared to everything else is that we've known some of these people 10, 15 years, and now they can still watch us for free. Whether they buy anything from us or not doesn't matter. The fact that we can show, like you said, authority, people are engaging with it and people are having fun with it, it just goes to show these guys have been doing this for a while. They know what they're doing.
People search Social Authority too
Pretty heavily.
I mean, there's at least 100 search. I mean, it's probably going to grow. I mean, if you look at the trend, it's probably like... But I think... I have to say this as someone who's been... Like, just in digital marketing, like the boring stuff, people talk about the idea of authority all the time.
Yeah.
And it really is the most important thing to focus on is authority.
I love it.
So I'm stoked. I'm ready to go. I can't wait. I'm gonna go to
Let's do it.
socialauthority.ai every day.
We're going to do it. We're going to get it set up. We're going to make it so that you guys can have a ton of free stuff that can help you win, because I know social media works because it's the only thing that worked for me.
Have you ever like
Hooked on Phonics worked
so
for
you
me.
have
That's right.
so you use ClickFunnels?
Yeah, I like ClickFunnels.
The ClickFunnels is okay. Okay.
Well, we'll talk about it here in a minute,
Yeah. No, I think ClickFunnels is good.
Yeah.
I think ClickFunnels is great.
especially for what I do. It needs to be simple.
I'm very curious about what a blog looks like on ClickFunnels.
Let's figure it out tonight
Yeah,
and show everybody tomorrow. We could probably write 10. I have like books I've written in ChatGPT that we could turn into free blogs that are
You ever
practically
done-
like downloads.
Have you ever worked with? They definitely have blogs.
You could just copy and paste some of my blogs. On
No, you
Imig.ai.
can't. No, you cannot do that.
That's right, Hilton.
You psychos.
Just say Pat wrote it.
That's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on the next one. This is so funny how awesome this looks. So thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys being patient with us. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah, you'll have to migrate away from this soon. You're gonna start getting traffic if you have this.